Our top story, India reporting a massive rise in COVID cases on Thursday. Over 90,000 cases were reported in a span of 24 hours. Cases have risen from just around 7,000 3 weeks ago to 90,000 now. A decision on a lockdown in Mumbai will now be taken by Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray. Maharashtra's Health Minister Rajesh Tope has said this as Mumbai crossed 20,000 fresh COVID cases, which is the threshold limit for more restrictions to kick in. The total number of fresh cases, 20,181, is a 33% spike over yesterday's figures. 4 related deaths were also recorded. The financial capital reported 15,166 cases in the previous 24-hour period. Of the fresh cases detected over the last 24 hours, 85% showed no symptoms. Worryingly, 338 resident doctors have now tested positive for COVID-19, which is straining health systems even further.
अभी तो हमारा एक ही ये रहेगा कि संक्रमण न बढ़े और संक्रमण न बढ़ने के लिए हमने भीड़ इकट्ठा न हो, इसके लिए जो भी निर्बंध है, रेस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं, हमने लगाए। हमने मैरिजेस या सोशल गैदरिंग्स, रिलीजियस गैदरिंग्स, पॉलिटिकल गैदरिंग्स सबको बैन कर दिया है। बिल्कुल किसी को भी ऑफिशियल परवानगी या जिसको बोलते परमिशन नहीं मिलती है, कहीं पर भी महाराष्ट्र में ये बैन किया है। कॉलेजेस भी बंद कर दिए क्योंकि कॉलेजेस के माध्यम से भी ये वल्नरेबल ग्रुप कैरियर्स बोल के काम कर सकता है, उसी को भी बंद किया है। कई जहाँ पर पॉजिटिविटी रेट बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ गया है, पुणे और मुंबई में, कि जो 20% के ऊपर है, तो वहाँ पर स्कूल्स भी बंद करने का निर्णय निश्चित तौर पर लिया है। तो जिस तरह के आगे का हम क्लोजली ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं, आने वाले दिनों में जो भी संख्या रहेगी, जिस तरह से ये पैरामीटर्स हम ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं, तो वो अगर कुछ उसमें डिस्टर्बिंग कुछ रहा तो निश्चित तौर पर रेस्ट्रिक्शंस की बढ़ाने का काम करना ही पड़ेगा। लेकिन वो हम बारीकी से देख रहे हैं, रोज उसका एनालिसिस कर रहे हैं और उसके अनुसार माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी उस पर अंतिम निर्णय लेंगे।
Right, Saurabh Gupta joining us with the latest. Lots of headlines out of Mumbai this morning, Saurabh, as the city crosses that 20,000 case limit for further restrictions to kick in. Is the Chief Minister now looking at these numbers in order to take a final call on more lockdown restrictions? Also, now Mumbai's civic body chief asking private hospitals to restore bed capacity to peak levels. We're also hearing that a total of 338 resident doctors are now down with COVID-19. That's going to strain health systems even further.
Absolutely, the resident doctors issue is going to cause a huge strain on the health system, especially if the numbers rise, more resident doctors fall ill, and they take more time to recover. Because what is currently happening is, to keep things going, doctors are returning to work 4 to 5 days after they test positive. They're doing a test, test again, and if they test negative, they're returning to work. And that's how things are working now. Now, of course, a couple of developments. One is, of course, yes, the private hospitals have to augment bed capacity and restore peak capacity which they had during the second wave. By the 11th of January, ward assistant commissioners have been asked to ensure that happens by coordinating with hospitals in their wards. There is also, the private hospitals have been asked not to take admissions directly. Now, this is something that really helps in triage. Because what usually happens is a lot of people who are not in need of hospital beds, anticipating a need, often take up a hospital bed, thereby resulting in denial of a bed to someone who actually needs it. So to avoid that, what the BMC did last time around, and which successfully worked, is set up these war rooms, and all admissions related to COVID had to be through these war rooms. They would allot a bed so that they knew that somebody was going here, so there are more beds available here or whatever place. So that is one thing that the private hospitals again have been asked to revert to. 80% of beds, through the ward room, and also no admissions directly, and restore peak capacity. And the other thing, of course, is more restrictions. Now that is something that the Chief Minister will take a final decision on. The BMC Commissioner, Iqbal Singh Chahal, in an interview to NDTV had said that if the city crosses the 20,000 daily mark, then we may have to look at more restrictions. But you also said that also this will not only depend on positivity rate, but also on the fact that they look at hospitalization data very carefully. Now, if 4 or 5 days is the hospitalization cycle for someone contracted COVID this time, then the city is well prepared to manage, is what they say, and they may not need more restrictions. But if that is not the case, if it takes longer, or if there are a huge number of people who are testing positive, then they will need more restrictions, and that's something that is clearly being driven by hospitalization data, oxygen requirement data, and that's something that the Chief Minister will take a final call on. Yesterday, Sharad Pawar, the NCP chief, had a meeting on this issue with the Health Minister, the Health Secretary, and other senior officials.
Right. Saurabh, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So hospitals in Mumbai could be staring at a crisis soon, given that as many as 338 resident doctors who are the backbone of health infrastructure have tested positive. Let's take a look.
Dr. Praveen Dhage works at Sion Hospital with COVID patients. He himself is now COVID positive. From his isolation facility, he speaks to us, warning of a looming crisis.
Those who are positive and admitted in hospital, they are repeating their swab after 5 to 7 days, and after the once the swab comes negative, the resident doctor joining back their duties and providing the service to the patient and fighting this COVID situation.
Two big government hospitals, Sion and KEM Hospital, have seen a big surge. 157 medical workers in KEM testing positive in the past 4 days, while 80 were infected in Sion in the last 7 days. While at the government-run St. George's Hospital, over 40 doctors have been infected, including Dr. Bhushan Wankhede, the Chief Resident Medical Officer, who tested negative just a few days back.
5 days back, we got some symptoms, so I tested, so got positive. And frequently we are in contact with the patients. You all know that suddenly the surge of patients has been increasing and mostly gets the symptoms, and also they are getting positive, and the admission rate is also increasing. So in getting in contact with the patients, all are getting positive.
A member of Maharashtra's COVID task force says it could get worse.
This is probably going to get even a little bit worse than what the numbers are appearing to be right now. How long it's going to continue? The peak should be coming by the end of January, by all mathematical calculations and by the trends that have happened in other countries.
Private hospitals are diverting doctors from other wings into COVID care.
Even though some of our colleagues have been tested positive, we are able to manage and run the scenario. The other thing which is probably working, because the elective non-COVID cases are comparatively down, so the resources are getting diverted for COVID facility.
Hospital authorities warned they're being able to manage the situation currently because those resident doctors who tested positive just days ago are back at work after testing negative. But if hospitalizations and the recovery period continues to increase and more doctors are down with COVID, then a crisis is around the corner. In Mumbai with Ashok Mahadik, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
Delhi has reported 15,097 cases, up about 41.5% day on day. On the 29th of December 2021, there were just 496 COVID cases. From that moment until now, there has been almost a 3,000% jump. 1,004 COVID patients have been admitted to hospitals in the last 24 hours. 769 patients have not required either oxygen support or ventilator support. 211 patients have been admitted with oxygen support. 24 patients are on ventilator. With the third wave upon us and cases growing at a much faster rate than the second wave driven by the highly transmissible Omicron, people are now opting for rapid tests with kits that are bought over the counter rather than RT-PCR ones. Earlier, there were fears of mandatory hospitalizations. Now, even the government is recommending the use of these rapid tests. Meher Pandey reports.
चाहती हूँ, अगर आपको लग रहा है कि
if I'll know that I'm suffering from such things, I will stay home. Why would I go to metro or so, right?
At this metro station in East Delhi, where the Delhi government has set up an RT-PCR testing booth for random sampling, most people are avoiding tests, in the fear that they may be mandatorily hospitalized.
अब लगभग जितने आते होते तो हम कर ही देते हैं। ये है कि हम मोबिलाइज कर सकते हैं, फोर्स नहीं कर सकते उनको। अगर हम 150 सैंपल कर रहे हैं, उसमें से अगर 20 निकल रहे हैं हमारे कि हाँ हाल फिलहाल में अभी केसेस इंक्रीज है।
Until now, all known Omicron patients have been mandatorily isolated at hospitals. The fear of mandatory hospitalization had resulted in a surge in rapid antigen tests, with people preferring to buy off-the-shelf kits with their promise of anonymity. Although 7 types of rapid antigen home testing kits have been available in the Indian market for months, it wasn't until the Omicron variant hit that sales skyrocketed.
देखिए ऑल ऑफ अ सडन जो रेगुलर चीज़ें जा रही थी, मास्क, सैनिटाइजर, उनको छोड़ के ये रैपिड एंटीजन टेस्ट किट की डिमांड ऑल ऑफ अ सडन पिछले 3-4 दिन से एक्सट्रीम हाई पे चली गई है। हम आउट ऑफ स्टॉक हो चुके हैं ऑलरेडी।
Sales of Coviself, one such kit, jumped by 200% in December. Demand for self-test kits is highest in Maharashtra, West Bengal, Rajasthan, Delhi and Andhra Pradesh. The maximum units have been sold in Mumbai, Delhi and Kolkata. In Delhi, the share of RT-PCR tests out of total tests has dropped week to week. The ICMR is also now encouraging the use of home rapid antigen tests with a connected app that will report results to the authorities. But the worry is that many people who turn out positive at home may not report themselves.
Again, there will be some cases where they may not do reporting. They might try to bypass the thing. So I think it is a good initiative. It's a good development. In fact, it has happened for the first time. Indian company or Indian government has allowed infectious disease to be tested by a software. Even that has not happened in the world.
With the government clarifying that now even some Omicron patients can be isolated at home, hopefully the fear of an RT-PCR test will subside. But the government's encouragement of home self-testing and no more mandatory testing for asymptomatic cases signals a shift in India's pandemic management. Now, at this stage of the spread, contact tracing is out and the focus will be on augmenting healthcare infrastructure. With Sanjay Kaushik, Meher Pandey for NDTV.
Over 4,200 COVID cases have been reported in Karnataka, with Bengaluru reporting nearly 85% of the state's cases. Doctors are worried about the doubling rate of cases in the state. Private hospitals and private medical colleges have been asked to reserve 50 to 75% beds for COVID patients.
Bengaluru markets crowded as ever, despite numbers spiraling in Karnataka, record daily spikes 2 days in a row. Nearly 4,246 have tested positive for COVID in the state, with capital Bengaluru contributing nearly 85% of the state's cases, with 3,605 testing positive. With the rising numbers, hospitals are reporting a sudden spurt in OPD consultations.
In December, we were averaging maybe maximum 10 people a day in the wards, and maybe anywhere from 2 to 5 people in the ICU, but the numbers were low. In the last week, we have seen a dramatic increase in the admission rate.
In order to ensure the city does not run out of beds, Karnataka government has now mandated private hospitals and private medical colleges to reserve 50 to 75% of beds for COVID patients.
If I had 5 patients in the ward at the end of December, we're seeing about 25 patients in the ward currently.
And I think Dr. Shailesh, working at Aster CMI, says the hospital has seen an increase in hospitalization in just 24 hours.
We had around 4 or 5 cases a week back, and now we are having around 10-11. In the last 24 hours, we have had some 4 or 5 admissions. So that is like probably a spurt which has happened.
While Karnataka's testing numbers have hovered between 1 lakh and 1,20,000, home collection of RT-PCR has doubled in a matter of 3 days.
The last 10 days of December, we will be doing, let's say, close to 100 numbers, and now we have crossed close to 200 numbers in the last 3-4 days, and it's keeping on climbing as we speak.
During the second wave, Bengaluru's health infrastructure had collapsed. Speaking exclusively to NDTV, D. Randeep, Health Commissioner, described how the state is trying to ensure hospitals can handle the extra burden in the third wave.
Presently, we are seeing a hospitalization rate of well under 2 to 3%, while daily admissions have increased in the Bangalore city area from around 15 to 16 earlier to about 50 to 60.
At present, there are 50,000 odd beds across the government and government medical colleges across all the 4 categories, including general wards, HDU, ICU and ICU plus ventilators. In the coming days, because of the cases spiraling, the government now plans to add more ICU beds in the district level and taluk level hospitals. In Bengaluru, with camera person Govind Murthy, Shrija for NDTV.
On to Assam, where 844 fresh cases were reported, with Guwahati reporting over 300 of those cases alone between December 27th and January 5th. A 10-day period, there's been a 5-fold increase in the number of positive cases. Now, the government has decided to ramp up facilities, and at the Guwahati Medical College, the biggest COVID facility in the northeast, a new COVID ICU is getting ready in the parking lot of the medical college. This has now been converted to a 200-bed ICU complex with ventilators.
Assam has started to witness a rise in the number of cases of COVID, perhaps indicating that the third wave has hit Assam, and in fact there have been Omicron cases not only found in Assam but other parts of Northeast. Remember, right from the first wave of COVID which has hit in 2020, every time in every wave of COVID, Assam and rest of Northeast got hit by the wave about 2 to 3 weeks later than when the metros were hit, and therefore now this gives perhaps chance for Assam to prepare. Now we are inside an ICU which will be dedicated for cases related to COVID and particularly Omicron if Assam witnesses a surge. Now this ICU that we are in is now being readied. The equipments have come in, the ventilators have come in. At this moment, Assam has only 5% utilization of the total hospital beds, which is more than 8,000 available for COVID patients. And therefore, if there is a surge in the cases like what it is witnessed in Delhi or Mumbai, then Assam is also trying to ramp up its facilities, particularly COVID ICUs. Now this space that you see used to be the parking lot of Guwahati Medical College Hospital, which happens to be the biggest medical college in Northeast India and also the biggest COVID facility. Now this parking lot has been transformed into a ICU complex with ventilators. We are in the basement ICU, which will be dedicated for COVID, kept ready for COVID rather. It has 100 beds. There is another ICU which is on the top floor, which has been utilized as a general ICU with 100 beds but can be transformed into a COVID ICU. So therefore, the government here in Assam trying new means, innovative means like converting a parking lot of a medical college into an ICU complex so as to keep ready beds with ventilation, with oxygen if there is a further surge and if number of cases really increase which requires ICU support.
Time for a very quick break. All the other news of the day when we come back in just a moment. The Home Ministry now forms a panel to inquire into the Prime Minister's security breach in Punjab. We get to more details in a moment. As India reports over 90,000 COVID-19 cases, it is now very evident that this latest third wave is being powered by the highly transmissible Omicron variant that has taken over globally. So just how is Omicron different from Delta in terms of symptoms and effects? Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor breaks it down for us.
Omicron is not mild, it is a milder strain, but it does have symptoms very different from Delta. So we spoke with doctors, top doctors across the country to pick up from them some anecdotal evidence of how to actually detect Omicron early on. To start with, one of the major things is that Omicron mostly impacts your upper respiratory symptoms. And it will give you symptoms which are in the upper respiratory system. In Delta, we had seen lungs getting impacted pretty early on, and that was a danger. The other thing with Omicron is that it has a scratchy throat compared to Delta, where we had seen people develop dry cough. The next thing about Omicron is that it does give you a congested nose, something that was not seen at all in Delta. The other sort of giveaway when it comes to Omicron is that it is leading to high fever. In Delta, we had seen fever would pick up from 99 to 100 and gradually go up. In Omicron, however, it generally shoots up to a very, very high fever. Another major factor and symptom for Omicron is actually body ache, mostly seen in the lower back, sometimes leading to dizziness as well. In Delta, however, the biggest giveaway was loss of taste and smell. That's not happening with Omicron. Let's talk about symptoms next, and here Omicron a major disappointment because monoclonal antibodies seen as something which would fight Delta 100% does not work, simply does not work when it comes to Omicron, which is a major disappointment. In terms of treatment overall, well, in Omicron, if you test positive for it, your doctor is going to give you symptomatic treatment, and in case your oxygen levels drop, which it might in severe cases with older people, those with comorbidities, they will take the use of steroids as well, which is pretty much the same on how we fought Delta as well. The key here is watch out for symptoms early and stay in touch with your doctor to keep a tap on things. Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor, NDTV.
Well, so far, Kerala has seen a far slower rise in the number of COVID cases than its neighbouring states. However, 50 more cases have now been confirmed of Omicron in the state. Sneha joining us at this point with more details on that. Sneha, what are we hearing?
Well, Ankita, we are coming to you from the Chalai market here in Thiruvananthapuram. And what is perhaps the most significant thing to mention is that Thiruvananthapuram and Ernakulam are part of the 2 districts across India, part of the 15 districts across India that are contributing to among the highest cases on weekly basis. This is the morning scenes from the market. You can see the morning rush for supplies and things that need to be taken out of the market and brought into the market. So this is one of the things. In terms of the COVID numbers, the test positivity rate in Kerala is high, at around 5.12, but the increase is not as steep as it would be during a peak of any wave, or you're seeing in some other states where the doubling of cases is happening exponentially. That is not the scene currently. However, the daily cases continue to be above 4,000. As we can see right now, it is 4,649. Now, what is a major concern is the mortality rate, or the COVID mortality rate. Now, even though the daily cases that are being added in terms of the death counts is around 1720, but the backlog cases have been around 200 or so for the past few days. Just 3 days back it was 400 and something, and yesterday the latest data of backlog COVID deaths is 204. The COVID death rate, or the mortality rate for Kerala now is at 0.91%, 92%, which is very close to the national average of 1.38%, though still remains low. In terms of the total numbers for deaths in Kerala, it is just next to Maharashtra. So while experts are saying Kerala is not seeing a major infection or exponential increase in infections among healthcare workers, hospitals, or even the daily cases as such, the positivity rate still remains high, the daily cases still remains high, and 2 districts among the top contributors for COVID cases on a weekly basis across India.
All right. Sneha, thanks so much for all of those details. Meanwhile, Chennai's daily tally has increased 6 times in a week from 619 cases a week ago to 3,759 yesterday. NDTV's Sam Daniels spoke with the Greater Chennai Commissioner Gagandeep Singh Bedi on the city's projections, preparedness and challenges.
Joining us now, the Greater Chennai Corporation Commissioner, Mr. Gagandeep Singh Bedi. We are under the 3rd wave. The numbers in Chennai have already crossed 2,000 every day. What's the projection we are looking at?
The numbers, as per we are in touch with ICMR experts. First, from the metropolitan cities, they say, of course, because there's a lot of high population over here. Chennai itself has a population of more than 85 lakhs at present. The numbers will increase. The numbers will increase sharply.
That's the number we are looking at. Last time it was beyond 7,500.
Because of the present infectious nature of the virus, the numbers are increasing. We can definitely cross the figures of we'll cross the figures of last virus.
Last time during the peak we had 7,500 cases. Now how well the city is prepared? What are in terms of oxygen supply, ICUs and beds?
We are having the previous system, we are having the same system at present also. Like as I told, we had Chennai Trade Center 800 beds, we have set up the 800 beds over there. Today the oxygen is also being put up in the COVID care centers. The city's medical colleges, the health department is taking care. The oxygen supplies have already been increased. We in Greater Chennai Corporation, in our COVID care centers, etc., we are having 1,000+ oxygen concentrators, and which we have again ensured that they are all in all readiness. The beds are there. We are we feel that we should have further beds also in readiness, so that we should none of the patients should have any shortfall in case the need be. One positive thing is that a lot of people have got vaccinated. Tamil Nadu government has given a lot of focus. There have been mega vaccination camps, but yes, masking up is a big challenge for us.
In Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, Find It TV.
Time for a quick break. Still ahead, the Home Ministry forms a 3-member team to probe lapses in the Prime Minister's security in Punjab. More in a moment. Well, the big focus, of course, now on the 2 metros of Mumbai and Delhi that are reporting the highest numbers of any cities in India. A decision could even be taken on a lockdown in Mumbai as numbers are being monitored closely. This is what Maharashtra's health minister has indicated yesterday as Mumbai crossed 20,000 fresh COVID cases. Now, that's the threshold limit for more restrictions to kick in. The total number of fresh cases at 20,181 was a 33% spike over the previous 24-hour period. 4 related deaths were also recorded. Now, a lot of these cases are asymptomatic, but at the same time, 1,170 COVID patients have been hospitalized. 106 of them are on oxygen support as well. Delhi, meanwhile, reported 15,097 cases, a 41.5% jump from the previous 24-hour period. But if we look at a longer period, then on the 29th of December, there were just 496 cases. Since then, there's been a 2,943% jump in the number of COVID cases in Delhi. So Delhi saw 1,004 COVID patients being admitted to hospitals. 769 patients have required neither oxygen support nor ventilator support, but 211 corona patients were given oxygen support and 24 people are on ventilator support. All right, let's take this right across to medical experts. Joining us on the show right now, Dr. Rajesh Parekh, Director for Medical Research in Jaslok Hospital in Mumbai, is with us this morning, as is Dr. Uma Kumar, Professor and Head of Department of Rheumatology at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi. We're also being joined by Dr. Vivek Nangia, Principal Director and Head, Respiratory Critical Care Medicine with Max Hospital, Saket. Thank you all very much indeed for being with us. Dr. Parekh, let me begin with you, since we're focusing really on Mumbai in the light of these 20,000 and more cases. Do you believe it is time now for more restrictions to kick in, that we need the government to take a proactive step about this?
Good morning, Ankita. I think the government is going to be running out of options very soon, because it is in the nature of the virus that we are going to see the same rate of increase. Let us not forget that we saw a similar pattern in South Africa, where actually in one day, the cases had gone up from 200 to 16,000. So if we see what is expected, and that is that there will be a steep rise in the wave, because this is what has happened in the past, then over the next 10 days to 2 weeks, we can see these numbers accelerating, and there will come a point where the government will run out of options, and we may see stricter measures coming in. It's to be expected.
Right. Dr. Uma Kumar, you know, Delhi's weekend curfew, of course, starts from tomorrow, but on weekdays, we're still seeing lots of crowds as people go about their work. You know, how do we break the chain of transmission at this point, or has it sort of gone beyond that with community spread, and are we now likely to see an even larger spike in the days ahead?
Good morning, Ankita. Yes, with weekend curfews, I don't know how much that's going to be effective, because as has been nicely explained by Dr. Parekh, that its transmissibility is very, very high, and the numbers can go high tremendously in a day, within hours. And we all know this virus has switched its behavior, so public will have to switch this behavior, because there is a limit beyond which it's very difficult to stretch in terms of medical facilities, availability of medical staff, because medical people are also falling sick with this virus. Weekend curfew, that can just give people a little bit of the sense of feeling that something is being happening and they don't have to move out. But just restriction on 2 days, I don't think that's going to impact much in terms of increasing numbers.
Right. We are in fact getting the fresh COVID numbers overall for India. India reporting 1,17,100 new cases in the last 24 hours. So from 90,000 in the previous 24-hour period, we are now seeing cases having gone up to 1,17,000 in just the course of 24 hours. So that's a 26,172 cases rise in the daily cases. We also have Dr. Vivek Nangia and Dr. Shyam Krishnan with us from Kolkata. Dr. Nangia, to you, a quick look at those overall numbers, the fact that COVID cases are just going up in leaps and bounds now.
Absolutely, and if we see the trends, we are following exactly what was happening in South Africa also. The Delta wave rise was not as sharp as this one is. The transmissibility of this virus is much higher. It may not be as serious because it has an affinity for the airways. It doesn't go into the lungs as much. So it has a 70% greater affinity for the windpipe and the two bronchi that we have, the right and the left bronchi, and as compared to the lungs per se. So as a result, the severity may not be as high, but transmissibility is very, very high. We also need to remember here that even people who got vaccinated are developing COVID here. There are some people I know who have even got a triple vaccination done, Pfizer vaccinations done abroad, and yet they're developing COVID. And also people who've suffered COVID in the past are developing COVID. So I have got patients who suffered in both the previous waves, and now in the third wave, again, they've got COVID. So this virus is able to evade our immunity. It's also able to evade the immune response generated by the vaccines. So having said that, I would also want to say that the only good part is that people who've been vaccinated or who developed an illness in the past, they only develop a milder version.
Right.
As shown that there's only a very small percentage of people even now who are requiring oxygen and ventilatory support in the hospitals and the ICUs.
Yes.
But this number could go up subsequently because our entire population is yet not vaccinated with at least double vaccination. So I think we'll still have to watch this virus, how it behaves, although we consider it to be mild, but then there would be some people who would develop a severe disease as well. And I'm sure there would be people who would require oxygen and require ventilatory support and would die also.
Right. Dr. Shyam Krishnan, West Bengal numbers have been particularly worrying given that the positivity rate in the state is touching 25%. Now, that's a staggering figure. One other concern across states which are reporting higher numbers is that health workers themselves are now turning COVID positive as well. And that's straining health systems at this point, even if actual number of patients being hospitalized is not that high. If you have doctors themselves who are sick and in isolation, that's always going to be a problem. What have you noticed in Kolkata and in Bengal at large? Is it the same there as well?
Yeah, good question, Ankita. So, we have witnessed a tremendous surge. Be it the festive season, the winters, and the public just wants to, with the summer vacation, the winter vacations starting, they love to travel. And we have witnessed a tremendous surge in the number of COVID cases in Calcutta here. Among healthcare workers too, we've seen a lot of our colleagues, a lot of paramedical staff, technicians falling sick. But thankfully, none of them fatal or none of them serious enough to fall sick. But it does pose a tremendous burden on the healthcare system because the backup measures should be, very robust in this case. So we should have a proper rota set in for the healthcare workers with, considering the backup. If so-and-so falls ill, he's going to back up. Because otherwise, if we don't do that, the system is going to just collapse. So that is why we are bracing for a further increase in cases. The healthcare workers, so we've reduced the quarantine as per the central government rules to 7 days. So that is with the intent of getting them back to work quicker. But thankfully, a lot of them are recovering very fast and reporting with very mild symptoms. So among healthcare workers, we have yet to see a very serious, infection resulting in hospitalization. Majority of them are mild, they recover faster.
Yeah, and presumably that's not just health workers, but other people also who are falling sick, largely asymptomatic. Very few hospitalizations or serious hospitalizations, at least up until now, which perhaps is the silver lining, as it were. But Dr. Uma Kumar, how is it that Omicron is really, what are the ways in which the Omicron variant appears to be different from the Delta variant that powered the second COVID wave in terms of symptoms and effects? If you could take us through some of those points of difference.
Right. Look, in terms of symptoms, it's a little different from what we had with Delta virus. People are not getting loss of taste and smell. And as has been pointed out, that virus is not infecting the lung much because of a behavioral switch. And there are certain kind of changes which has happened in the virus. Possibly it is not able to attach itself a particular enzyme in the lung, so not causing serious disease. Then many people, they're having fever, which is mild to moderate grade. There's lots of body aches, pains and aches here and there. There is upper respiratory tract infection, which is like having sore throat. But the thing which is differentiating it from flu a bit is like there's no sneezing happening to people. So, but we don't know when the new symptom come up and people start having other symptoms as well, or the virus changes its behavior. We end up having another strain which causes some other symptoms. So constant vigilance is required in terms of surveillance on virus behavior and the presentation which patients are having with this virus.
Dr. Nangia, would you agree? Are there any other points of difference that you can think of that you're in fact seeing in people who are now testing positive with the Omicron variant?
So most of the patients who are coming to us, they usually have a scratchy throat, cold, cough, and a low-grade fever. While high-grade fever, loss of smell, loss of taste are not classically seen in this Omicron variant. So that is the clinical difference between the two variants. But also, we still don't know about this virus, whether it would lead to a long COVID sequelae or not. We have no clue. There will be the long COVID sequelae. We only know about it since the last 2 months. So we'll look forward to that as well.
Right. Dr. Parekh?
Yes. Well, I think it's been quite clearly explained that there is a difference in the clinical manifestation of Omicron as opposed to Delta. What I'd just like to add to this, that this is also seen in laboratory models. Recently, there was a study published by Cambridge, United Kingdom, the University of Cambridge, in which there was collaboration from CSI in Delhi, South Africa, Japan, and Hong Kong. And here, what they saw in the laboratory clearly correlates with what we are witnessing on the field today. And the study had 2 arms to it. In one of them, they just looked at vaccine-induced immunity of 2 vaccines based on different platforms. One of them was an mRNA, the other was like Covishield, an adenovirus-based platform. And what they saw in the laboratory is that the Omicron variant was able to elude the antibodies induced by these vaccines. We're seeing that. But in the other arm of the study, they took lung cells and saw that the Omicron variant did not infect them that much. And that also correlates with what has just been explained, that we are not seeing so many respiratory symptoms. I'd just like to point out something on a note of optimism. And I'm sure when we look back at what has happened in the last 2 years, there's a lot to be proud of. Medical research has performed phenomenally well. The computer models that were generated 2 years ago have all held up, and as they're getting refined, they're holding up. For example, the US-based COVID-19 scenario hub clearly predicted what's happening now. They crossed 1 million cases the other day. So the predictions are on track with the computer models. We're seeing that happening in our country. The wave is just taking off. So none of that is astonishing, but it's commendable that our models are able to, with reasonable degree of accuracy, predict what is happening. The vaccines have been developed in record time.
Yes.
And so, in a sense, the gap between the virus and humans who are tracking it is actually closing down. And that's something I think we're going to be proud of, and we should take solace.
Right. Well, we'll take our optimism and positivity where we can find it. A quick last question, Dr. Shyamkrishnan. In terms of projection, India now likely to probably hit its peak by end January, if not early February. If we look at the South Africa model, cases have declined very sharply after the peak as well. Can we hope for a similar scenario here as well?
Definitely. I feel that would be the nature of this particular wave. We would see a very sharp surge, but at the same time, we would see a decline fast too. So I think so it's going to last shorter than the previous wave and hopefully less fatal. So fingers crossed, but that's what all the studies have shown. That's what, the experience from different countries, like especially South Africa, have shown us. And eventually the Omicron variant is going to replace the Delta. It usually takes 3 to 4 weeks time. And once that happens, and then you can see a decline in the number of cases.
All right, we leave it at that this morning. Thank you all very much indeed for joining us on Good Morning India. News now from Chennai, where Chief Minister M.K. Stalin flagged off a fleet of 42 special COVID ambulances. Sam Dan reports.
M.K. Stalin flagging off a fleet of 42 special COVID ambulances, the first of its kind to expedite treatment and to eliminate needless rush to hospitals by positive patients. Dr. Shashwat of the city's triage team visits the home of a 46-year-old positive patient within hours of the positive report. After initial investigation, the team recommends a checkup at the screening center. Thanks to these vehicles, in 15 minutes, the lady is taken to the health facility with no hassle for the family. Not far away, this 30-year-old doctor was advised home isolation. The team supplies him tablets, immunity boosters and even a bag for medical waste. This young volunteer was designated to help the isolated patient with his supplies.
We don't want to stretch out our 108 ambulance system. We want our 108 ambulance system to be free for the other patients or more serious patients. And for testing alone, Greater Chennai Corporation wishes to chip in and ensure that we help the system. At the same time, we also keep the relatives free from cross-inspection.
Chennai is seeing a surge in the daily tally from 619 cases a week ago to 3,759 yesterday, a 44% jump from the day before. The Chennai Corporation says it's also roping in more doctors and volunteers to make this system work. Chennai had witnessed severe shortage of ambulances and hospital beds in May when the daily tally had crossed 7,500 when the second wave peaked. This time, authorities project 3 times the numbers, around 20,000 cases every day. And this is the only way they hope ambulances and hospital beds could be made available for serious patients, even as the third wave inches towards a high. In Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, Find It TV.